The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I think we can start in a minute, Rahul.
Yes, certainly, yes. Just wait another minute or so and then we'll start.
Sure. To all the attendees who've joined in, thank you so much for joining in already. We will wait for a minute before we start the webinar. We have the presenter with us already, and I'm sure you all are able to see the screen. But as per the scheduled time, I think we should have the other attendees also join us soon. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to write your questions in the questions tab. Great, I think we can start. Thanks to all of you again. And Rahul, thank you so much again for conducting this webinar. This is the second webinar in the last 1 week, and we also have one tomorrow, just so you all know. Uh, as you all know, along with Rahul, this is Knowledge Hut, bringing the webinars to you. Knowledge Hut is a leading training partner across various management and technology domains. We've been doing a lot of webinars in the last 2 months to help people know each of these subjects better and also help them understand what career options they have. So we're very thankful to all the SMEs like Rahul who come forward to help us execute these. Um, Without taking much time, I'd like to hand over today's presentation to Rahul. We will have the first 40 to 45 minutes for the presentation, and the last 15 to 20 minutes will be the Q&A session. You all can type in your questions into the questions box. Towards the end, Rahul will be able to go through the questions and we can choose a few to answer depending on availability of time. And a recorded version of this webinar will also be available on our YouTube channel in a couple of days. You will be able to find the recorded version. However, the presentation will not be shared. Importantly, we receive a lot of emails about the certificate of participation as soon as the webinar is over. I'd like to make a request to all of you today that we will need at least a week's time before we share the certificate of participation. So in case you don't receive it tomorrow or in the next 2 days, you don't have to worry. All the attendees will definitely receive a certificate of participation, provided you are part of the webinar at least for halfway through, because often we have people join in for 2-3 minutes and ask us for the participation certificate. I'm sure you all understand that this is a very valid certificate, because we look at these webinars as a great way for you all to learn about the subject. So appreciate your time and patience in this regard. Rahul, over to you. Looking forward to today's presentation.
Thank you so much, Rudy, and I hope everyone can hear me well. A very good evening and a good morning in case if you are joining from out of India or any other place. My name is Rahul Gujar. I am the SAFE program consultant with Knowledge Hut. Come with more than 20 years now in the industry, and it's been more than a decade for me working on agile projects and programs, helping organizations adopt to safe methods. I have been an implementer myself with one of my partners. So welcome again. Welcome to this webinar on product ownership with SAFE 5.0. SAFE is a scaled agile framework for enterprise, and they have, I would say it's very recent. It's probably 6 month old, and but from all aspects, it's recent that way. So it's the latest version 5.0 that will be looking at 5.0 from the perspective of a product owner or a product manager. So those are some of the roles we'll go through when it comes to SAFE. As far as the new version goes, there's a heavy push around moving from projects to products. We believe that the team should be thinking more from product development, although they may be part of certain projects. Projects, to an extent, we feel is an old school of thinking. And one of the books where the creators of SAFE have been kind of influenced with is one such book by Mick Kirsten, of projects to products. And there are some very good things that are being mentioned in this one. It's about how do we compete in the today's age of software. We are firmly into it, because if you look around, and especially with the COVID situation that we're going through, where we are kind of working from home and adopting more of digital technologies, right? Like for instance, today we are on this webinar, and it's a given that organizations are thinking about transforming, and unfortunately some of these managerial frameworks that you have been accustomed to working for so many decades and number of years, that sometimes comes in the way. And again, there's a big push around how do we think about moving faster in today's world. And if you look at some of the startups or a startup kind of an environment where it believes in speed of innovation. This is an environment which is very customer centric, going back to the customer requirements as quickly as possible, trying to prove things into the market, getting customers under their belt, right? And as the company grows, as the startup grows, with more customers, there's a point where we build hierarchies around it, right? And the efficiency and stability is what it offers with these hierarchies, right? I mean, we bring in some processes, people part of certain groups, they continue to grow. And yes, I mean, it's something that we have seen across, and we want to work with it. But unfortunately, what we have seen is over the years, such organizations which believe in hierarchical networks, and which of course offers efficiency and stability, as we say, a number of times we have seen the innovative network, the network where which was a very value driven network, that gets sacrificed, and what remains is of course the hierarchical and the efficiency. So there's this book written by John Carter called Accelerate, and this is another book which that there are a lot of inputs from this which we have considered as far as the latest version of Safe 5.0 goes. And yeah, I mean, certainly we cannot throw away these the process driven networks, or the old way of working, I would say. Okay, we certainly cannot throw everything out and just stick to something new. What we want is something what we call as the dual operating system, a dual operating system where we get the best of the both, right? We want the value driven network as well as some of these processes which our hierarchies bring together. And that is what essentially, if you look at the latest version of Safe, right? In fact, in my opinion, even the earlier versions of Safe, to an extent, we did see some hierarchies, we did talk about value. But I would say, when it comes to Safe 5.0, there's certainly an added rigor into how we start looking at customer problems. How do we start understanding customer? So there's a very big push on customer centricity design thinking as far as the latest 5.2 framework goes. I'm not sure how many of you have seen this framework, but it looks quite busy, right? I mean, of course, with 5.0, we have in fact reduced one of the levels. Earlier there were 4 levels. In fact, now the team and program has been sort of combined together as essential level, because we believe essential is something which is required by all the teams who start thinking about scaling up. And you know for us to build bigger services or products, it's always a concerted effort from multiple teams, isn't it? I mean, it's never the case where a small team of 10 or 15 or 20 people are able to produce bigger, larger products. It's always multiple teams that come together and do things together. And that brings in the concept of a train when it comes to Safe, right? The agile release train, talking about 5 to 12 such teams, and how they come together, work together, drive to some objectives, right? And these are some objectives which the teams or individuals of the teams form. And if you have been you know currently, if you have been in the agile world doing some amount of Scrum, Kanban, or any of the other practices, or any of the other frameworks that you've adopted, right? Safe is something which we believe it would complement to what you're doing. And you know again, with Safe 5.0, we truly feel that for us to achieve business agility, we need involvement from all teams, not just the IT teams but also the non-IT teams. Sometimes we'll, for instance, you work with some of the hardware teams, some of the infrastructure teams, network teams, info security, right? I mean, to an extent they are also IT, I would say, right? I mean, may not be software development, but something around IT or IT systems, and they are equally important, isn't it? I mean, so many times we go to them for certain help, certain ask, and if they keep working in their own sweet world, right, non-agile world, I would say, right, we have problems, right? And that's one of the reasons why we believe in 5.0 that we can achieve business agility by involvement of all these teams. And that's one of the reasons why we have now taken the product owner and the scrum master as to specialized roles at the team level, right? And all the teams, which means that we could possibly see such roles in even the non-IT teams. And we have in fact called these teams as agile teams, so we are trying to be a bit agnostic. Instead of saying dev team, it looks very development focused. And people always come to say, okay, if it's a development, then it's not for us, right? I mean, how many times we would have heard that? And you know because of this, the customer centricity and design thinking that we is the focus. Today we are going to talk a little on these roles of, what is SAFe offering us, how product management, product ownership happens here in SAFe. And there are these two specialized roles that we'll be talking briefly about: the product owner and the product managers, right? Or we sometimes we call them as product management. The reason being, of course, there are bigger products sometimes require multiple product managers, right? I've been into such situations where I've seen more than one product managers, and it remains so apt here, right? So we will look at some of these, but as far as the framework goes, and when it comes to these roles, it's not just about understanding customer requirements and formulating them as stories and features, right? The backlogs that they keep maintaining, the program backlog and the team backlogs, but it's more to it. There's a lot of things that goes on these roles when it comes to SAFe. It's all about how they contribute towards some of these PI planning activities. How do they get involved into during the execution? What are the things that they typically do in terms of gathering further requirements for the upcoming PIs or program increments? So when it comes to the customer centricity and design thinking, as probably some of you who have attended some of these design thinking workshops or sessions, it's a different way of thinking, isn't it? I mean, we would like to understand the customer needs but using certain tools, and some of the tools possibly you are already working with, or you may be aware of it, right? Of certain tools. But the products that we're trying to build, right, we want these products to be like desirable, viable, feasible, right? I mean, that's what eventually every customer wants. But before we even deliver such products, we need to understand what is the problem, right? And this is what design thinking tools brings us. Be very customer centric. That's the mantra of 5.0. And the key roles that you will see again here is the product owners and product managers doing that. So in terms of understanding the problem, right, we would like to like it's like opening the funnel, right? Okay, we should be open to all ideas, discover. So we have a concept of divergence and convergence, as you can see. And when you're understanding the problem, maybe through Gemba walks, problem, I hope you have heard about Gemba walks. Gemba is see where the work is done. Maybe you want to do some flow walks. Maybe you want to go and sit with your end users, your customers, get a feel of how they are working on it, or you'll get a lot of ideas with that, right? And they may say, okay, I wish this is something which I had in the product, right? So it's not always that we innovate, right? I mean, sometimes the innovation or good ideas even come from right at the team levels, right at the end user level, right? So that's what we believe in. So we need to do that, discover as much as possible, but at some point in time we need to converge on certain things, right? I mean, look at one of the tools like Jira, right? Atlassian Jira, right? They say that they have kept their product backlog open. Anyone who is using that product can actually go and say, okay, I would like to see certain things in the product, right? And maybe what they're doing at the end of the day is categorizing the common requirements, and then finally converging on precisely what the product needs to look like, or we need to do in the next release. And when you try to converge again, again we use some of these design thinking tools like personas and empathy maps, right? Empathizing with your customer, seeing or thinking, and getting a feel of the customer itself. That would help us to understand what precise problem we are trying to solve. And there are other tools which we would introduce, which is the journey maps and story maps. I think story map has been there for quite some time. Maybe some of you would have used it before as well, story maps, right? And prototyping. So this is in the SAFe context, I would say this is what builds or helps you to become more customer centric using some of these tools. Now, when do we do this, right? And one such role in SAFe is the product management. And we believe that it is initially we usually talk about any product having 4 features. right? I mean, we always use this feature term, right? My phone has so and so feature, my particular app has so and so feature, right? And that's what we are precisely targeting here. We need to synthesize those features, and product management, product managers, you can say, for that matter, right? This is the group which will mainly be focused towards our stakeholders. You know, if you have been working in the Scrum world, we have been made to believe that the product owner, he owns everything. Yes, I mean, he should be preparing the product vision. He should be also be involved with the stakeholders. At the same time, he should be also on a day-to-day basis involved with the teams. Now, this kind of a job becomes too taxing for a single product owner, especially when it comes to larger products, product deliveries. It's absolutely not possible for one person, and how much a single product owner could do. And the reality actually shows, in larger enterprises, that we definitely have some roles like product managers who are actually more outward focused, or customer focused, I would say. And they are the ones who are actually giving us the vision, the roadmaps, right? When they sit with the customers, with your end users, right? When they collaborate with them through all these things, as we are saying, customer visits and Gemba walks and case studies, right? Through all the market research, and the features that they now formulate, and of course, they're not doing it alone, not only just with the with the external stakeholders, but they often take the inputs from our architects. They take inputs from our teams sometimes, right? Maybe during our, what do you say, the refinement sessions. Now, essentially, when they synthesize it, we will, initially, safe believes that, we should prepare something like a program backlog, which will have the features, and those features will be prioritized. And when you prioritize those features, the same features would eventually get broken down into stories. So the feature priority is what determines the story priorities, and stories are something which we all look at in our backlogs, right? And that backlog here is actually called as the team backlog. All right. So yes, we have multiple backlogs. Those who are working on pure Scrum methods may say that, okay, Scrum says that, all right, we should have a common backlog and all right. Guys, the reality here is, it's very confusing if you have a single backlog for multiple teams. I mean, it becomes difficult to manage, and that's the reality, right? So a program backlog more for the product, or owning the ownership is with product management there, and prioritization is done. Of course, when they are doing the prioritization, the product owners are also there, when they're discussing with, and that prioritization is the WSJF. That's what we do. Of course, there are a lot of things to that, in terms of what are the factors to be taken when they do the prioritization. All right. But yes, I mean, that's the first part, right? And if you really look at what is the kind of the differentiating factor, or why do we need a product manager, and what typically is the product owner, right? As I said, product manager is more of an outward facing guy, someone who is like that master, the marketer or the customer facing person, someone who understands the market needs, right? I mean, constantly in touch with that, and as I said, they are the ones who are actually owning the vision and preparing the vision and the roadmaps in the first place. There'll definitely be a contribution of the product owner in that. As you can see here, the product owner is also contributing in the vision, and of course, some of the road mapping. But essentially, yes, there is a separate role here of product manager. And I think I probably mentioned in the the SAFe framework that we just had looked at a couple of slides ago, that we believe that the team should come together and work towards an objective, which is done during one of the very important events of SAFe, which is called as the PI planning meeting. It's something like a big room meeting, all right? And this is where we would want to actually align with the different, not only with the stakeholders, but also the different teams that we have as part of the whole big program, right? As part of the train. Okay, we typically refer a program as a agile release train. And so the product managers are also there available, and they would also help drive those PI objectives which are being formulated during the PI planning, right? And I think you probably would have heard about the acceptance criteria, right? I mean, we always talk about every story has an acceptance criteria, and here again we believe that even a feature should have an acceptance criteria. And you should always be considering your non-functional requirements starting at the feature level, because these are the same non-functional requirements which some of the the decomposed stories feature will get decomposed into stories, right? So those stories would also would need to adhere to the same to similar non-functional requirements, like performance or security and things like that, right? So there's something which happens at the program backlog level, which is the features with the acceptance criteria. And this acceptance criteria typically would also help your if you're doing some amount of regression test automation or some amount of end-to-end test automation, right? Now we refer to those kind of teams here as, sometimes we call them as system teams, right? Now those teams, right, they would possibly would like to look at this acceptance criteria which the product managers have written as part of the features. All right, so there's a lot of thought into it. And as probably you would know, the product owner, more of an inward force or team facing guy, I would say, more of a team facing person, right? Involved with the teams clarifications, and helping the teams understand what the vision is, right? And ensuring that we the teams are also meeting the goals. Someone who accepts the stories, right? I mean, I think product owner is something which is we don't diverge from what Scrum has said, right? I mean, that's the similar kind of role, right? I mean, again, you have an acceptance criteria, and the acceptance criteria at the story level would possibly a reflection of what we want to say at the feature level, which means that when the teams deliver the stories or finish the stories, possibly at some point in time the features would also be done, which means those features have to be also demonstrated, right? I mean, be an integration. So all such things are kind of covered in detail when it comes to the safe, most of the the safe trainings and the safe programs that we undertake, right? So so we do have this kind of a bit of a differentiation again, I mean, when it comes to what are the activities, if you really think of so the product manager, again, this is someone who should be driving your product increments and driving your releases, right? So a lot of, if you see, right, I mean, traditionally a product owner would be typically required to do all of this, like the visioning, the road mapping, the release management, the writing of the stories, acceptance criteria, you name him, I mean, everything under the sun, right? And how could this one person possibly do? And that's where product managers come into picture, right? So it's like offloading some of the things, you can say, right? But of course, the hierarchical thing that I talked about. So you may be a product owner today with a team, and tomorrow you may be kind of play the role of a product manager, because product manager is more kind of for multiple teams, so because it's more of the to do with the features, and the features could very well be done by multiple teams, if that's the case, right? So as I said, there are these are two key roles, I would say, when it comes to the essential safe. Of course, there are other levels as well in safe. We also have the large solutions level, where you would see a similar kind of role which is done by a solution manager now, right? And if you really think of a solution, I mean, a solution could be a very large system that you're building, a very large system which probably requires a lot of suppliers, a lot of maybe it goes to more than 15-20 teams, something like that, maybe you're talking about 200 or 300 people involved in such kind of a development. So yes, we do have some boundaries when it comes to working at the train level. Like, in safe, we talk about close to around 125 people for a train, right? But if it goes beyond that, okay, of course, that doesn't mean that if you have 130 people, then we should have two trains. That's not the idea here. But yeah, I mean, if you're way off, if you're way off, then around 125, 130, if you're kind of 200 or 300, possibly you may want to think about a solution level, and that's where you will have another level of product delivery, you can say, or solution delivery, right? And solution would consist of multiple products you can take, okay, in an easy way, you can say, right? And that would have your solution manager or solution management, right, if you have multiple. So again, so I hope you get the idea about how product owners are helping us to drive the iterations, right? I mean, that's what your key activities would be at the team level. Yeah, and of course the team will team will actually not only do things at the iterations, but also they will be ensuring that we are interacting across multiple teams, which is the train concept here in SAFe, right? Collaborating with everyone, identifying those dependencies, trying to resolve some of those dependencies with multiple teams, right? And of course, building the quality. So anything to do with teams, you can think about a product owner, in SAFe. Anything to do with multiple teams, right, which is the train concept here, is something where we have a product manager. But of course, on the SAFe framework, we'll see product management written, right? Because maybe there are more than one product managers. Yeah, and this is again one of the guidance that we have, right? That okay, we have kind of one product manager, possibly involved with more than one product owner. Yeah, I mean, again, this is something which we have seen across the industry, many places, right? I mean, that's how the case is, right? And if you say that okay, we have one product owner for one team, right? Again, this is something which SAFe would say that the reality is again that sometimes a product owner could be there for two teams. It's quite possible that way. Yes, I mean, ideally it should be one team, one PO, fine, yeah. But when you're talking about larger programs, right? I mean, it doesn't become cost effective sometimes, isn't it? I mean, a product owner could be there for two teams, right? So this is something which I believe will give you some idea about the hierarchical aspects, a bit of the hierarchical aspects of SAFe, right? One product manager with maybe 2 to 4 product owners, and each product owner could be with or product owner for 1 to 2 teams, right? Because a single, as I said, single person cannot handle the product and market strategy. So guys, I mean, there's more to it. I mean, this is not the only thing. This is probably just I would say still at a high level. What we were discussing in terms of the roles, responsibilities. But as you would see, when it comes to SAFe, there's the framework itself, right? The framework has a lot to offer. The framework talks about a number of different meetings, right? I mean, some of those are at the team level, some of those are at the train level, program level, you can say, right? PI planning, one such where all teams are involved, right? And more importantly, how our product owners, product managers, do the stakeholder management, how they are doing the visioning and road mapping, right? They're syncing, so when it comes to scope creep issues, I mean, this is something which you have seen often, right? I mean, during the PI or during your regular sprints, if you say that, hey, I mean, we got a new requirement, how and this particular new requirement impacts some other teams, right? And those teams also have a product owner, and we want this product owners to come and talk to each other, right? So we do have some meetings there, which we typically refer as the PO sync meetings, and the prioritization. It all starts with prioritization, the backlog prioritization, right? With one of the techniques of WizJeff, how these product owners, product managers come together and do certain things, or on release planning or iteration planning, right? And of course some of these design thinking tools. Now most of these concepts are understood more when we in one of these certification programs that we usually do, which is the product owner product manager certification. Okay, it's a combined certification, you can say. So if you are playing any of those roles, in my opinion you should consider it. SAFe, as you know, has been adopted by a latest report of State of Agile, says that SAFe is the leader in scaling technologies, in scaling frameworks, right? 35% of the companies have adopted to SAFe. Yeah. And I think if I remember correctly, but then the second best is probably around 20, 22 or 25%. I don't exactly remember the percentage, which is the Scrum at scale. And then of course, probably, the others are way behind, I mean, probably somewhere around 10% or 7% or 4%, So if you think of it that way, it's clearly, a leader. And, these certifications does cover a lot of information about, in case if you are, you are a product owner or a product manager, you may want to really think about it, right? I mean, we at Knowledge we are one of the silver partners, and as we have been there as with partners of Scaled Agile for a number of years. We've trained more than 6,500 people now, right? And we do have an upcoming program coming for product owners and product managers just a few weeks down the line on the 18th and 19th. So if you could join me there, please, definitely we would like to see you there, right? There's quite a lot, and this, as I was saying, this is the world's leading framework for business agility. It's not just about so I mean, if you really ask me, right, uh, we talk about Scrum, and we have the certifications of Scrum Master certifications. Yes, I mean, they're good. I mean, there's absolutely no issues with that. But the problem with some of this, or at least I feel, is when it comes to Scrum Master certification, it appears that it's only for Scrum Masters. It's the Scrum Master who should know all about Agile, and they should teach. They become the coach. Yes, I mean, fine. But what about our product owners and product managers? They get to some of these a little later. And in my opinion, that's something which you should avoid, because if you're not able to formulate your requirements, right, if you're not able to do that properly, I would say, you won't be able to get the right results, isn't it? I mean, it's simple, garbage in, garbage out. I mean, that's how I put it. So you may want to consider something around safe, and of course it's completely free that way. If you go to scaledagileFramework.com, you'll get a lot of knowledge around it. Okay, you can just go and read through it. Maybe you want to try to adopt to some of those practices, you can do that as well, right? It's completely free in nature as such. It's been adopted by a number of organizations. I mean, I cannot think of any big organization who haven't really thought about it, right? Number of case studies are as also there. If you want to just get a feel of what is there in Scaled Agile, you can probably go through some of these case studies also, because relevant to your domain again, right? And yes, I think I hope I would like to stop here, because the product ownership, product management, that was a kind of a bit of a flavor for today's webinar here. And I mean, there's a lot to that, as I said, but happy to take any questions at this point in time. So if you could put it in the Q&A box, please, we can take it from there. Okay, I can see one of the first questions here. What are the major differences between the roles of PO in SAFe and Scrum? Right, good question. Because yeah, as I said, it appears that a product owner is more at the team level, right, or at one team level, right, or Scrum level, you can say. Yeah, to an extent, most of the role, as we have heard in SAFe or in Scrum, right, of what a product owner should do, to an extent remains the same. But yes, there are a little bit of differences when it comes to SAFe, because we are working at multi-team levels, right, with multiple teams. There are certain things which the product owners are also expected to do when it comes to scaling, when it comes to how do we get involved in our PI planning activity where multiple teams are involved. How do I, as a product owner, understand what the scope is, which possibly impacts some other teams, and how can I collaborate more with the other product owners, right? In terms of that stakeholder management, I can say. So there are subtle differences, definitely, right? I would still say that maybe around 60 or 70% of what we have known a product owner do in Scrum world remains the same, right? They would continue to do that. The other small difference I would say is, as I said, a product owner could possibly work with more than one team, and again, there's kind of a bit of a and that's again, I mean, that's how what we have actually seen, in many places. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So yes, I mean, these are some of the differences, but each of the meetings that we see, especially at the multi-team level, those definitely PO will have certain things to play. All right. So there's some more to that, I would say. That's the reason I said, okay, probably around 60-70% remain the same, 30% more. All right. Okay. So I'm just looking at one more question here about what is PI planning. All right. So yes, PI planning is the program increment planning. right? So it's something like a big room planning, where all the teams come together. They plan in terms of what possibly we could do in the next few weeks, right? In the next 4 to 5 weeks, which is 4 to 5 iterations, 4 to 5 not weeks, I would say 4 to 5 iterations, right? And this is more of an alignment meeting, PI planning. We are aligning with other teams. We are understanding, even the stakeholders are there in that meeting. Okay, so it's something like a big room planning in case we have done something like that before. Sometimes they call it as hot houses, and there's so many names to that. And there's quite a lot. It's a 2-day event. It's a 2-day meeting. All right. All teams participate. Ideally face to face, but I think in today's situation of COVID, of course, it cannot be done face to face. But people are joining in from their, from their home, from their laptops. But yeah, it's still happening today as well. Okay, so a brief thing about PI planning, I would say. All right. All right, what is the measure difference between SAFe 4 and SAFe 5? Okay. Well, I think there have been quite a few differences, I would say. In SAFe 4, if you have gone through that, I'll probably touch on few of those, because it's not possible for me to touch on all of those, but I'll talk about the major ones. So as I said, business agility, there's a very big push, when it comes to that aspect there. Okay. Which means involvement of everyone, and how we can bring people in agile, and that's probably one of the reasons we have actually moved away from dev team and we said it's an agile team, right? So definitely one difference there. You'll see a glaring immediate difference you can see. The other thing is, the way we have been capturing results, right? In terms of that design thinking, as I said, we were doing this before as well. I mean, I'm not saying that this was not been done, but it was not explicitly called out in the framework, and that's what we are doing. We have introduced some new tools as well with that, along with that, right? We have also seen some additional guardrails when it comes to what do you say, the portfolio level, right? So portfolio level also have seen few changes, I would say. And one of the biggest change I would say when it comes to 5.0 is, we have added 2 new competencies. All right. Earlier we had 5 competencies. Now we have 7 competencies. We have organizational agility as one of the new competencies. Some of the competencies have been renamed also. All right. Now we have 3 levels, isn't it? Earlier we had 4 levels, team, program, right? So yes, I mean there have been a few differences, as you would see, right? Earlier, I think if you look at the 4.0 world, solutions was mainly mentioned at the solution level, right? The 4 levels which were there, the 3rd level you can say from bottom. And now you'll see, we believe that even at the program level, we are doing solutions, right? So they made some small changes. I won't say the concept has changed much, but those small changes have happened, right? Yes, but more importantly, that is the thing, right? And of course, there are now 10 principles instead of 9 principles, right? So they've added another one called as organizing around value, right? So I think, yeah, I think I'll stop to that. Maybe they have given all such things also there in the on their website there. Okay. Okay, I'm just looking at few more here. What I have, if PO is okay, just a sec. Let me just see if I can open this a little bigger, right? Okay. Yes. Okay. So what else do we have? Okay. Suggest more latest versions of books to read about the subject. Okay. How do we get a hands-on experience on for someone who is a fresher? Oh, okay. All right. Books. All right. When it comes to books. Okay. 5.0, I don't think I've not seen any new kind of a book. Okay. Like where you can just go and read it, because uh, the world is evolving. The world is evolving very fast, to be honest. The framework itself evolves. So a book is something, you take it and you don't want to see, you purchase a book and again after 2 months you want to see changes. I mean, no one likes that, right? So that's why it's not about the book, but it's about that scaleagileframework.com. That's the website I would recommend. All right, please go and go through that as much as you can, because there's a lot of information there. Okay, it's just that you may get lost, because you probably don't know what to look for and where to look for. So yeah, I mean, give it a try, I would say. But my suggestion here is, maybe you want to do a quick 2-day session on safe, just to get an idea. Maybe you want to start with leading safe. That will give you a broader picture of all the levels, and maybe take it from there. From a fresher perspective, I don't know. I mean, how much you would really get directly into safe. My suggestion is, if you're a fresher, you may want to go for another program called as Safe for Teams rather than leading safe. All right. There's a lot of information there that we provide, in terms of what developers, testers at the team level, right? What is it that you should do? What is it that you should know about safe, right? So that is a better program, I feel, than some other programs like leading safe. Okay. So I think I'll probably stop on that at this point in time. All right. So what is peer planning? I think I've explained that. What is the major difference? Okay, let me see what other questions are there. Is there any minimum size of the release frame defined? Yes. All right, good question. So we do have, we believe that it's only minimum 5 teams as part of the train. All right, maximum of 12 teams. And again, there is a reason for that. It's about, as human beings, we cannot actually relate to, or we cannot connect with, more than 120 people. Connect in the sense, we really know each other. That kind of connect, I'm saying. Of course, you can send mails to hundreds of people, right? But the thing is, it comes from this Dunbar's number. I think it was Richard Dunbar who had suggested that, probably around 120, 125 human being can relate to another person, and that's what the number we have kind of restricted ourselves to. And typically, if you look at a team, a scrum team, we are talking about 10 or 12 people. So if you look at it, we're talking about, if you look at 125, then it comes to around 12 teams, and that's why there is a low number, 5 to 12 teams, right? So that's what safe believes in. Okay, let's look at other questions here. Difference between the roles and responsibilities of product owner versus product manager. Looks like that's what you mentioned. If I'm not, I can't see the rest of the part of that. Okay, all right. Difference between the roles and responsibilities of product owner versus business analyst. Okay, all right. Business analyst. Okay, I'll tell you. In my opinion, again, business analyst is one such person, which, of course, we have business analysts in our team where they are supposed to interpret what the customer requires, and to an extent translate what our teams understand. All right. One of the biggest, what do you say, differences, in my opinion, is the product ownership. Business analyst, in my opinion, they don't have that ownership of the product. Owning a product is a big stuff. It's a psychological thing. It's about, okay, the product belongs to you. Okay. Even when it comes to stakeholder management, business analysts, to an extent, I would say, all right, they're limited to, how they interact with customers. When their customers could be your clients, but when it comes to product ownership, a stakeholder management is given. It means that, you'll have to go and get requirements for anywhere and anyhow. You own the product, so you are responsible for delivering value to our customers. Of course, the teams will help you to do that, but at the end of the day, responsibility is yours as a product owner. So if I were to give you a quick answer to that, I think I particularly feel, it's more to do with the ownership of the things, and that's what is to an extent missing with our business analysts. All right. Okay. What else do we have? Difference between them. Okay, I couldn't understand. What is the lean startup cycle and lean UX? Okay. All right. So lean startup cycle, actually, it has been taken from, I think I just had this book in front of me. All right. It's taken from this book of Lean Startup by Eric Ries. I don't know if you are able to see that. Okay. There's a lot to that. Okay. And it actually talks about, how you should go about building bigger things. Think of an MVP, minimum viable product, right? Go into the market, put that product into market, see, whether it's working for you or not. If it's working for you, keep on adding more things to that, right? If you get hold of this book, there is a nice story on Zappos. It's about one of the entrepreneurs, how he started with Zappos. Zappos was eventually sold to Amazon for close to around, I think, $12 billion or $11 billion. You should read that story. Okay, so lean startup is more about that, I would say. Okay, of how to go about doing that in smaller pieces. And lean UX, we do have user experience people, user experience. We don't particularly feel that even the UX folks should do in similar fashion. Yeah? I mean, don't look at designing the whole thing big bang, right? Look at small parts for it. Look at your minimum marketable feature. What is it that the end user wants minimalistically initially, right? Get a feel, whether people are able to use that, right? And then from there, keep on adding new things. So that's user experience. So lean in the sense, okay, not doing big bang, trying to do in smaller things so that you don't have bigger waste. All right. Okay, let's look at some furthermore. Okay, is leading safe mandatory before going to RT certification? All right. Okay, that's a good question. I haven't. It's been a while when I read about RT in terms of their prerequisites. Okay, but I believe it's not just about leading safe. Probably you can even do a Scrum Master certification or an Advanced Scrum Master certification and stuff like that to probably arrive at RT. Okay, I'm not 100% sure, frankly speaking, because it's been quite some time I had looked at it. I'm myself not an RT. RT is given by SPCTs, right? SPC trainers. A bigger course, I would say. All right, please, if you can check out if it's mandatory or not. I'm not 100% sure on that. All right. Why the certification for Safe Agilist is more costlier as compared to the other certifications? Okay, what other certifications in terms of not the non-safe certifications? I think probably I'll try to take it up that way. Yes, I think yes, that if look at just look at the framework here. It's it, at least looking at it, it looks complicated, isn't it? I mean, of course, when you go through it, things will become a lot easier. But there's a lot of information that we are bringing to the table. Frankly speaking, it's about when we talk about enterprise agility, we also now have a measure and grow. That's again one of the big differences in 5.2. We actually talk about how do we measure our progress, in terms of safe adoption. All right. So there's quite a lot that safe is bringing for us, right? And I think in my opinion, this is probably the reason why safe trainings, not just safe agilist, look at any of the safe trainings for that matter. Yes, they'll be costlier than Scrum Master training if you are comparing that way, all right? But then there are others who are equally costly, all right? Not just safe agilist or the safe programs. Okay, anything? All right, what else do I have? If I have not answered, let me just go back quickly and see if there's anything that I have not answered. All right, I think I've answered most of the questions. Trying to go back further when I was discussing, going through the slides here. Okay, if PO is driving at a team level, what are the core roles in Scrum Master what are the core roles in Scrum Master of Scrum Master in Safe, maybe, right? If you okay, all right. So basically, we are not saying driving the team means okay managing the team. Okay, please don't consider it that way. It's helping the team only. But when we say the team needs to know what is the vision, right? I mean, you can say that, let's say you are traveling from one place to the other, all right? The team is going to help you to, so you want to travel and the team will be there with you. You have the steering in your hand, right? So it's up to you where you want to take the team. Okay, so that's what we mean by steering the team. I mean, it's not like about controlling the team. Okay, please don't think of it that way. No one controls the team. We believe it in self-organization, isn't it? Self-organized teams. So there's absolutely nothing on that front. It's more about helping the team achieve the vision. You can say that way. Helping the team deliver value. Okay, value to the customer. Helping them grow. That's what I would put it on. So please, it's more about that rather than managing team or driving team that way. All right, guys. Approximate cost of safe POPM. All right, for this I would request you to please check on the website here. Okay, so I'm just going to put it here. The next slide was about that only, about we do have other programs in knowledge. There's an upcoming one for product owner, product manager. in the next few days. But yeah, please check it out on the cost on our website, please. Okay. I don't want to put a figure which is not true, and now we are in trouble that way. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? Because I think we're sort of maybe another 5 minutes or 10 minutes away. But yes, happy to take any further questions if you have. All right. I think probably I missed one other question here. How different team collaboration happens, as some are Scrum teams, some are Kanban teams, some are XP. Okay, XP is more of probably a common thing between them. As we know, in Kanban there is no sprint concept and other ceremonies which are there in Scrum. Okay, very good question. Okay, how are they collaborating, right? So yeah, in Safe we also believe that some of these Kanban teams, sometimes you're right, maybe sometimes they don't have any what do you say, a defined sprint as such. But if you're involving some of the Kanban teams, and if they are saying they may be doing some kind of enhancements, maybe, all right, or maybe that pure support management, ticket management, okay, you'll have to really, understand every team on a train has a role to play. Every team on a train would be driven towards certain objectives, right? It is not that, they are there just that, okay, just because we have to fill 5 teams or 10 teams or 12 teams, we have just put, it's not the idea here, okay? They should be driving certain objectives also as part of the train. Be it Kanban, be it Scrum. Okay. In my opinion, when it comes to these lean and Kanban practices, it is even faster way of development, because here in Kanban world, instead of saying that okay, something will come out in 2 weeks of time, you may as well say that if I look at a story, if I'm able to take it right from the beginning to the end in quicker cycle, which is like the lean cycle, you're able to deliver it even faster. So it's not about what would they do. It is about what how these Kanban teams would help us achieve some of the objectives. I think that's the bigger question we should ask. If you say that okay, these Kanban teams are there, they have nothing, no objectives to meet, then the bigger question is then how are they part of the train, right? So every team will typically deliver something, all right, and in my opinion they should do certain things as far as train goes, as well as maybe they'll do things quicker. Okay. And for that matter they may have iterations in that perspective as well. Okay, meeting SLAs for that matter. Okay, let me just go down quickly. What certificate would you recommend who is already a Scrum Master in Safe? Okay, who is already a Scrum Master? Okay, so someone who is already a Scrum Master, what certification you would recommend in Safe? I think that's how I'll probably try to answer this question. So yeah, I mean, if you are already a Scrum Master, in my opinion, you may go and look at the Leading Safe program, because it actually gives you, what all the things are there as far as scaling goes, multiple teams and what is probably a solution level and portfolio level. You'll get a good understanding of that. Okay, that could be one of the areas. Or if you want, you can also go for the Advanced Scrum Master, and in advanced we have a Leading Safe. I mean, we have a Safe for Advanced Scrum Masters, all right, and that again we will give you a good understanding of what Safe is and what is it that you as a who is already playing a Scrum Master role, what is it that you need to do additionally when it comes to Safe. So that could be another one I possibly feel, Leading Safe or Safe for Advanced Scrum Master Safe. All right. Okay, I think I'm going to probably take this as one of the last questions. I have already completed CSM and Leading Safe 4. Should I go for Safe Scrum Master or any other? Okay, so if you have already, as I said, right, I think probably I have kind of answered the question before, right? If you're already a CSM, if you're already doing a Leading Safe, again, maybe I particularly feel you may want to go for a Safe advanced Scrum Master, Safe. That could be one of the courses which you may think of, because and um, yes, of course, if you did Safe 4.0 and 5.0, there is definitely some change. I don't know if you want to, if you are still a member yes, I think maybe you'll be able to kind of jump from 4 to 5.0. But in case if you're not a member, then it means that you'll have to come and attend the safe training again, unfortunately. All right, or maybe look for the advanced Scrum Master. Okay, I think we are pretty much very close to it. Any final question, or if you have any final questions, I'm happy to take it. Last question. So we still have few more minutes here. So all right. So I guess we're fine for now. Looks like there's no further questions. So thank you again. Thanks for attending our webinar today. And I hope I've been able to answer your questions, right? In case if you still have any questions, get in touch with us, right? If you want, I'll just put in my personal email ID. All right. Okay. All right. Send to all. I don't know if it does it that way. Okay. I don't know if you got my it's rgujar@gmail.com. That's my personal ID. In case if you have anything, feel free to reach me. I'm conducting one tomorrow again on Jira. See if you can join me there. Thank you again. Thanks for tonight. Have a lovely evening, rest of the day, and see you later, guys. Thanks again.